Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So we are back on my iPad, and if you remember, last week I ended up drawing 3 of the bachelors from the wonderful game Fields of Mistria. And I thought it'd be nice to actually draw 3 of the bachelorettes that you can, I guess, romance in the game. So I did pick out 3, so we're gonna start off with the, I guess like you might consider like the main girl. Just because she's one of the very first characters you ever see in the game, which is Adeline. So hopefully I'm correct. I believe Adeline and Aylin are siblings. So you do see them at the very beginning of the playthrough, or like if you're playing the game. So they're probably the first 2 characters you're introduced to. So we will be drawing Adeline first, and I think for the most part she has a very similar color palette to her brother, so later on you'll see me pop out the previous drawing that I did of the 3 boys and then use that as like the base or the crux of the color palette for Adeline as well. And I'm gonna say right off the bat, even though I think I didn't really like the little sketches that I did of the boys that I did from last week, I'm also doing sketches today, so they're not going to be like fully rendered and super cleaned up, but I'm going to do up until a certain point for like a little bit of rendering and cleaning up here and there. But I didn't really like any of the drawings too much, or I felt like I struggled a little bit too much when I was drawing all 3 of the characters today. So basically we'll be following the same procedure that I usually do. We'll do the sketching. I'll show kind of like the base of how I set up my layers. So usually setting my sketch to multiply, adjusting the colors ever so slightly. Then we can block in our character color, and then we will alpha lock that and just paint as normal. Then after that I will merge my sketch and my rough colors together, and then we can start to render and kind of clean up everything and see, and like up until a point that I feel like I want to stop rendering and we can move on to the next character. I did feel like, similar to like the previous session, I did have to keep resizing both Adeline and I believe the second character a bit here and there, just because I feel like I was running out of space super quickly trying to fit 3 characters into the same canvas. I think it would have been smarter for me to actually split the canvas into 3 different like rectangles and just kept their portraits within that, because I wasn't going too crazy anyways with like the posing or anything like that. So I could have done that kind of format instead, and might have been easier for me to keep everything nice and contained and not too many things being cut off. So at this point, I am using the freehand selection tool, and I'm going around the entirety of Adeline and kind of just doing a brief outline so that we can use the color fill option to drop in our base color. After that, I guess I decided that I wanted to match the colors a little bit closer to her brother, so I am pulling up, using the reference tool, the previous drawing session and kind of color picking as I go about the coloring session for Adeline. I also want to say a quick thank you to you guys for being super understanding if you watched Wednesday's video, where even though it was an ASMR video, I did kind of explain it a little bit more in depth of kind of like my thoughts and feelings towards my digital art recently. And hopefully after drawing Mualani from Genshin Impact, I feel a lot more better about working on the iPad again and just doing digital drawing and working on something that requires me to work on something for a longer period of time, which is kind of great because I would like to move on and work on a kind of like personal project. Also, I think, yes, by the time this video goes out, my online shop should be open and things should be still in stock usually. So hopefully if you're eyeing something, it will be in stock and go ahead and check out my shop. The link will be in my description. It's like my usual link that I have, except for that if you click it now, it's no longer saying that it should be under maintenance. So do snag something if you would like. I'm going to do my best to draw a few little freebies to throw into your guys' little orders, as well as like thank you cards and stuff, which I'm going to design a little bit later. I am still kind of like waiting on a response from a friend to see if we're going camping this weekend, so I won't be able to work on them right away, but most likely I will have majority of the orders dispatched hopefully within the first week of receiving the orders, and then any tracking or any kind of like shipping codes that need to go out will also be emailed to you guys directly. And I think that's it in terms of like little, oh, Maybe I should talk about this. So as we're doing the rendering and kind of clean up for Adeline, or I guess I'm doing the prep for it, but basically for future store updates. So this one's mostly fan art based. I'm doing a lot of Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. I have some Play Event 17 in there as well. But in the future, hopefully either by the end of this year or early next year, I am planning to do another store update that is mostly OC related. So this is going to include my OCs Masaki, Kaisen, Koji, Sato, Akemi, Moriko, Hansuke, and maybe any other ones that will come up in the future, like Akemi's siblings. But the reason why I want to keep it as a separate update is that I want to do like a massive OC update for you guys who are like purely interested in my OCs. And then moving forward, a lot of my OCs, kind of like artwork or like things I want to make that's more specific to them, but are like sticker related or print related, I want to do kind of like a little mini pen pal or like a mailing club of some sort, so like a sticker club or a print club, and I will make stuff monthly and send them out to you guys, whoever's interested. And I think that's a little bit easier for me to kind of like separate some of my stuff in terms of like what's going to be updated on my store regularly versus like I want to draw a lot more OC content anyways, so it'll be nice to kind of keep them a little bit separate. But obviously I'm not gonna like gatekeep this behind like a paywall per se. So even though if I do a, let's say, a sticker club where I do sticker sheets for my OCs every month, eventually, like probably half a year after or something like that, I will put those sheets up on my store for people to buy if you could not or did miss out on specific types of sticker sheets or designs that I ended up doing for previous months. So it's not going to be like fully just gated. I think it's just going to be a little bit easier for me to focus my energy onto, let's say, smaller stuff and for me to upkeep drawing my OCs a lot. And I think it'd just be fun to do and send you guys like OC mail every so often, like every month or so. So if that's something you might be interested, do let me know. And I'm definitely going to be considering that for early next year, which will allow me to have a little bit of time to make an OC kind of centric shop update, probably at the end of this year or early next year, like I mentioned. But with that and all of the rambling kind of like out of the way in terms of like shops and like my weird funk with digital art, Adeline is finished and we are moving on to our next character. So this character I am potentially more attached to in terms of the girls. So this is Reina, who I think is super adorable. So I initially sketched out Reina in, I don't know, the pose and just like the angle of the face was just looking a little funky. So immediately I kind of just started a new sketch. But this one's gonna go through like a bunch of transformations just because I don't know if I wasn't in the right headspace or I didn't like the fact that I kept drawing her quite young looking, maybe, that I kept wanting to liquefy and stretch out some things to make her look a little bit on the older side, make her eyes look a little bit less like big and her face a little less round, and you know, me just fussing around with some of the details until I feel like it fits her a little bit better. I don't think I've done justice to any of these three characters, so if they are your favorite bachelorettes in the game, I do apologize. But if I remember correctly, from what I saw previously on the last, last week's video, a lot of you guys also liked March a lot. I think a lot of you also liked Island or Ayland. So hopefully I will still do some more drawings and fan art of all the characters eventually, just because I did take a very small break from playing it. I've been trying my best to catch up on Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail now that my schedule has opened up a little bit, and I've been taking some more breaks to allow myself to do a little bit more gaming rather than pumping out drawings and kind of like an insane rate. So yeah. But for Reina, first, I love her color combination, which hopefully at the very beginning of introducing the sketch, you would have saw the little pixel portrait of her, which I think looks so adorable. I love her hair alongside with just her overall outfit. It's a nice combination of like white, pink, and yellow, which kind of like really pops. And her hair is just super cute. It's kind of like a half updo with space buns, and it just looks super adorable on her. And I believe if I'm correct, she does enjoy a lot of like cooking, baking, and all that stuff. She runs the, I think it's like the inn, or yeah, I think it's the inn, right? It's basically a place or like where all the villagers and people in town kind of gather. They all eat and hang out, and I believe her parents like run the entire place and stuff. So I don't know. I'm just kind of like more attached to her in terms of the bachelorettes at the moment. There are some other characters that I am interested in, but I think like out of the girls, she's more my type. And then out of the guys, I feel like I do like Island, and I do like Rias or Riss, whatever you want to call his name, probably the most. But I do like March a lot just because I think he's kind of like a fun character, and I do like his character kind of like dynamic. I just think he's kind of cute. So I'm still going to be debating on who I'm going to romance in the game. I don't know. Whenever I played like Stardew Valley, and my friends like to make fun of me for it because I feel like I'm a little bit antisocial when it came to our group file. So for that one, I just basically mostly just fished in the game and kind of just try to progress all of our tools and stuff for the farm. And I didn't really talk to a lot of the characters. In my actual playthrough on my Switch, I do put an effort to talk to all the characters, yet I'm still going for probably Krobus to do like the roommate kind of thing. And I just think he's cute because he's just like a little creature. But for Fields of Mistria, I don't know. I'm not too sure quite yet. I know there's like 2 unrevealed characters. I think there's one more bachelorette and one more bachelor coming up in the future. So I'm excited to see what kind of characters they are. But I definitely think Reina is like more my type in terms of the females. If anything, she seems just very sweet, very calm in nature, if anything. There is one of her character that might be similar-ish in personality, which I might talk a little bit later because that's who I will be drawing, if that's a spoiler. But for Reina, I did enjoy it quite a bit, just kind of like playing around with the colors a little bit. Like I said, I really enjoyed her color palette, and you can see that I was kind of fuss around with her face. I ended up moving, I think, her eyes a little bit, kind of cropping them and just shifting them a little bit, and then fixing it up with some cleanup and rendering at the very end so that it doesn't look too awkward. For some reason, when I'm like drawing these characters in my style, I think it was like less so for the boys. The boys do look younger, but like I think that's just typical since I draw more in my cutesy style, which I need to, you know, kind of branch out a little bit more. But for the girls, as I was looking at the more like older shoujo or like older anime-ish style, where a lot of the females' eyes tend to be a lot more like larger and taller. They're almost like egg or like an oval shape. And for me, I don't tend to draw a lot of the characters' eyes like that. I do lean more towards of like, if you had to box it in, it's more of a horizontal rectangle rather than like a vertical rectangle. So I feel like because I draw them so round, it kind of made them very like kid-like and very googly-eyed, if anything. So I was trying my best to like liquefy. I think it gets the worst with the third character that I draw, and it's because I also ended up copying and pasting the eyes, which personally I'm not a fan of unless I'm just copying and pasting the base of the eye. And the reason being is that I find that whenever I copy and paste like a fully sketched out eye and flip it over, they kind of look almost cross-eyed or a little bit off in a way, which kind of like makes them look a little weird or funky. So I usually don't like doing that, and I think the third drawing is going to suffer from that quite a bit. So hopefully it won't be too bad. I think for the most part, Adeline doesn't look too off. She does look a little bit cross-eyed, I think, at the very beginning, but hopefully I kind of fixed it up a little bit once we did a little bit of the cleanup and rendering on her piece. But let's talk about the third character. So I saw a lot of people talk about, actually, I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit of a mixed response for this character. Some people I think really like her because she's like really sweet and she's very cute and very, I don't know if she's bubbly per se, but she's more like that typical sweet girl next door, I feel like. Well, I don't know how to describe her, because I feel like if you describe her as the girl next door, I feel like Reina gives that feel as well a little bit. But I am drawing Celine, if you can't tell by the way I'm describing her. I feel like some people like really like her because she's super sweet and super cute, and then some people might find her character a little bit boring. I feel like I haven't played enough to kind of get like a full grasp of her character, so the more I progress, maybe my opinion of her will change for the most part, but she seems like more or less this like typical sweet girl next door type of girl. So yeah, in terms of like design, obviously color palette absolutely love, but I feel like that goes for like every character in this game. The aesthetic is just so nice. The color palette is just like, to me, it's kind of like a little bit eye candy, but also very soft. So it's like not like in your face, too bright, too vibrant. Her color palette's like very, not exactly pastel, but she has like a little bit of like a softer yellow for her hair. She has more of a almost mint-ish color for her shawl, and then she has like a lot of white and a little bit of hints of like brown, and I think like a reddish thing for her brooch. So I don't know. I do like her design quite a bit. I think she looks adorable. And I tried my best to stick a little bit closer to how Vey drew her hair because I was having a little bit of a hard time interpreting her hair. And I think this might be similar to me struggling a little bit with March's hair too. So I find that when you look at like old anime, they usually have a tuft of hair, especially from their bangs, that kind of like juts out a lot. And sometimes depending on which way they're facing, it will flip almost. And I think Celine has this and then March has this. So for Celine, from I think her portraiture, it's on the right hand side. I think March is also on the right hand side. So when I drew March facing to the left, I was having a little bit of a hard time interpreting, do I make it just look fluffier? Do I make it a little bit more condensed? But if I did that, it doesn't really look like his hair shape anymore. So I decided to keep it a little bit closer for Celine, and then I kept her bangs in a similar fashion. So usually if I do like front facing full bangs on a character, I would draw the individual kind of like blocky-ish shape along with the bottom line where it would show where the hair would end. But a lot of the ones that do a more older anime style that does like full bangs tend to just do a lot of like vertical lines sweeping down towards the face, but there's not really an end to where the bangs stop with like a distinct line work. It's usually just indicated with value and stuff, so it was a little bit hard for me to see if I could get it to even look like Celine at this point, and you can see that I'm struggling with her face. So I decided to completely wipe her eyes from like pupils and her highlight to see if I could fix the cross-eyedness a little bit. Now I understand why a lot of the times the eyes will look a little bit more cross-eyed, or I guess like almost the opposite where they're looking in two different directions completely, is that when I sketch out the left eye usually, I do not center the iris completely. So when I flip it to the other side, sometimes I might be like overcompensating and then I shift it too close, or I do the opposite so the iris is too far apart. So it might kind of contribute to the weird eye look, which I don't really like when some people copy and paste their eyes like from one side to the other. If anything, I mentioned earlier that if I like to copy and paste the eyes just to make things a little bit quicker, I will never like fully sketch out the eye and allow myself to either put in the highlights and the pupil later, or just kind of like scribble in so that they look a little bit different, because just something's like slightly unsettling or uncanny where the eyes are like exactly the same looking, at least for myself, unless you're like, maybe you're using like the symmetry tool or something, or you're doing like VTuber models where the character needs like fully symmetrical eyes, then I feel like it's more appropriate. For me, it just never really works out for the most part. But I think that's it for our three lovely ladies, which I feel like I butchered, if anything, probably Celine the most. So I don't think I noticed, but I actually didn't do a time-lapse version for the very end of this, so I'll leave you guys right here, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!